Hey guys, how's it going?
I tell you what, it's been better. It's been better.
I can't remember the last time I slept. I'm just going to let you know that, all right?
Who needs sleep? No
My
one needs
understanding is that British people don't require any sleep, so you should be okay.
How do we sustain ourselves?
Off of crumpets.
sleep.
Mhm.
So we have something new at the house that I've been sustaining myself with. No longer am I the peanut butter person and the yogurt person. No longer. Those days
What?
are done.
I'm not going to know what to do
those
here.
days are done.
Okay.
I bought my wife a freeze dryer.
hmm
I don't know if you know what a freeze dryer is, Richard. Is that popular over there?
It's certainly not popular. I am able to take the two words freeze and dryer and figure out how it operates.
So it's like
I've seen them on the shopping channel too, right?
It's like a thing over here. It's a huge bunch of people are like buying freeze dryers and making food and stuff.
It's like it's 1994 all over again.
Like
oh,
that-
it's
Like the
Good.
time you told me about tumbling, and I was like, "What on earth are you talking about?" You're like, "It's a hobby over here." I'm like,
yeah.
"There is a hobby called tumbling, and it involves glasses." What?
Yeah, it's like glittery glasses, tumblers, but you
Completely
eat these.
alien to an Englishman.
So
Yeah, you thought tumbling was what you did when you stumbled home from the Iron Horse.
That's exactly what I did.
Mhm. Mhm.
So tell me about the freeze-dried food.
so basically, we're trying to figure out what all can be freeze dried now. So I it seems like I am now a freeze dried strawberry,
Ooh, yeah.
banana, kiwi, and my favorite ice cream sandwiches are amazing.
Hold on.
Freeze dried. Oh, it's amazing. It's like-
Freeze-dried a frozen product.
Yes, it's
So
amazing.
essentially dry ice cream sandwiches.
Imagine if you had an ice cream sandwich that never melted and you could just like stick 8 of them in your pocket and walk around.
Is that kind of like that space ice cream stuff that you
It's
get
exactly
from
the
Cape Canaveral?
exact same thing as
And
this.
I'm guessing that
yeah.
as a kid, you wanted to try that space ice cream more than
Close.
anything
Close.
else.
I had that space ice cream as a
Oh.
kid. Yes, we
I
went
did too.
'cause we went-
I loved it.
because we like it's not too far for us to drive down to Florida, so we'd go to Cape Canaveral and inside the little store there you could buy freeze dried ice cream and fruits, probably like $30 a bag or whatever. I'm sure it's expensive, but yeah, that's where I got my first taste of the freeze dried ice cream, and so I have been eating jars of frozen ice cream bars. It's
That
not healthy.
It definitely
is me.
sounds more healthy than yogurt and peanut butter.
Well, The peanut butter is actually pretty healthy, and then the yogurt
Wonder
is.
what
pretty
else you could
healthy.
freeze dry, Bri.
That's what I'm saying. That's what
Why
I'm.
don't you try freeze drying the yogurt and the peanut butter?
I like the way you're thinking, Blake.
Mm-hmm.
I like
freeze-dried
that thought.
germanium transistors. Now
Ooh.
that sounds like a 300%
Oh.
markup.
Oh, a fun fact too. You know what happens when you freeze dry an ice cube?
No, I don't, actually.
it
It
melts.
disappears.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Literally, it's pretty awesome.
So what temperature is this freezing things at?
I don't know the science behind it, other than like the basics of it.
Right.
Gets it real cold,
Let's,
heats it up a little bit, sucks out the moisture, and there
I'd
you
say
go.
it's at least 32 degrees.
It's
let's
probably
stop now. Brian, go away, figure out the science, and come back and teach us.
All
I
right.
need a course.
Let me-
Brian Wampler's freeze-dried guitarparts.com.
More than this, I think you've just stumbled upon a new content stream. There's the Can You Blend This guy, where
Yes.
he tries to blend cell phones and
right.
stuff.
The
Oh,
can
hell
you
Can
freeze-
you freeze dry this?
So here's the problem, though. And I really need some help out there because apparently my wife says I ruin everything because I try to make everything into a business, and so she's like, "Please do not ruin this and turn it into a business. I just want to do this for fun." And I'm like, "But there's so many places we could go. There's so many things we could do with this."
Oh, that does remind me, Bri. When do you need me to finish for the design for canthisbeabusiness.com? Because I've been working on it. It's getting there. I just need a few buttons and maybe a dancing baby.
Oh, a dancing baby. How about if I'm almost bald. Maybe I just get in like a little
Freeze-dry
onesie
hair.
and dance.
Freeze dry your hair and save it for another day.
Just crawl into the freeze dryer. I'm sure I'll survive.
Is this how cryogenics work?
I wonder if there's a particular herb that you could freeze dry for storage purposes.
Oregano. Yeah, that's a good idea.
I was thinking basil, or as we call it over here, basil.
Basil?
Basil.
Basil.
That sounds very Martinsvillian.
Here is
I got some
something I
basil.
want to
Just
know.
put a little basil right there.
Why do Americans take the H off herb and pronounce it like you're from the West Country of England?
Because there's a guy named Herb, and we don't want to get
Right,
confused.
it's confusing to us.
Yeah. Mhm.
Like,
Okay.
I like to smoke.
You know what?
Herbs.
I'm not going to challenge you. I actually believe that probably is the reason. So
That's yeah, you got a Herbert, you call him Herb.
That's
you don't
right.
want to be like, I smoked Herb the other day. Like, you killed Herb?
yes. Okay. I mean, again, it did get confusing, of course, when in England the slang name for a cigarette
Yes,
was
yes,
a
yes,
bad
yes,
word in your country.
Mhm.
And yes, we've had that conversation. Anyway, I'm really excited about your freeze dryer, Bri.
Oh, it's amazing. In fact, I was telling the man, I'm like, Sweetwater sends out candy with their pedals, right? Well, I can't send out freeze dried stuff with the pedals because different business, but with the breadboard modules, what if we start bagging it up and sending it out with the breadboard modules, right? Buy a
She
course,
said,
get
Brian,
a bag of candy.
leave me alone.
She's
leave me
like,
alone.
stop trying to make this into a business. Stop doing that.
Just let me freeze dry things.
And that's when she got the spray bottle out on me. Start spraying.
Yeah. I can see
yes, the spray bottle.
I haven't used the spray bottle in a while.
I'm using multiple spray bottles every day at the moment.
Well, you are.
because
You have a new
we
family
have-
member.
We have a small canine creature. And when I say small, it's smaller than my foot. It
That is a little bitty thing.
It's 900 grams. So
Size of a pedal.
You know what? He is about the size of a Jim Dunlop wah. If you were to stick a Coleopteri on a Jim Dunlop wah, you would have roughly the physical side of him, but it would weigh like 4 times as much as him. He's teeny, but we called him Rio after the Duran Duran song.
No, after Diamond Rio.
Well,
Jimmy Olander.
we're not letting Anna know that. She thinks it's Duran Duran. No, it was definitely Duran Duran.
Ah, so you took none of the suggestions provided by
That's
our lovely
right.
audience. Mhm.
I
You
mean-
asked for suggestions and then promptly ignored them all. It's fine.
Yep.
Well, yes and no. I did ask for suggestions, and somebody promised to send me those suggestions.
Oh yeah. Whoops.
So the window
they-
of opportunity to
I said-
implement said suggestions.
I sent you suggestions with Telecaster with B bender, Telecaster with G bender, Telecaster with overdrive, Telecaster.
I'm very proud of my daughter because her 2 suggestions were simply Fender and Gibson. At
Yes.
one point, Marshall was in the running. I quite
Yes.
like the
Ooh,
name
Marshall
Marshall
would be
for a
good.
dog.
Yeah.
Magnetone, that'd be a great one.
Tweed.
Tweed.
I think the most suitable name for him would be Dumble, though, because oh boy, he is one handful of trouble.
What kind of dog is it?
Well, that's a good question. He is a cross between a Dachshund, probably not a purebred Dachshund either, and a Shih Tzu Chihuahua cross. So he's
So it's an abomination.
he is a miniature mutt made out of all the most yappiest breeds known to man. I think Marshall would have been a great name because he's going to be loud.
You told me that on Patreon, and I tried to pretend like it wasn't actually it. That's why I asked again. I was like, no, surely it's not that.
No, it is.
But-
It is.
okay, it is.
He's super, super cute, I gotta say. We may have made 1 or 2 errors. I think the number 1 error is Anna letting him sleep next to her ear.
Uh-oh. Yeah, you're never getting in that bed again.
I don't think he's ever getting out of our bed. So, yeah, a lot of fun. And I have not played any guitar for 3 days as a result of this. I've done very little for 3 days other than sat there crying, wondering where my life's gone. It's a lie. I love him.
That's yeah, I haven't played guitar for a few days either because I was too busy dealing with exploding cars. So that's cool.
You had a motor that exploded, right?
Yeah, exploding's not the right word. Seized is the more proper
the
term.
most 1970s problem you could have with a car these days. It wasn't like engine light came on and I have no idea what it was. It was a proper old-fashioned oil-based seizure by the sound.
Yeah,
of it.
the oil light came on as I was pulling over because it was going. Yeah, that's when the oil light came on. Why it took the oil to be almost gone before the oil light came on? Good question. I checked the oil before. Let me back up. We went on a trip this weekend.
Not in your Kia, you're not backing up.
That's right.
That ain't
That's
moving
not-
anywhere.
That's not going anywhere. We went on a trip, kind of like last minute. My wife was like, "Hey, for spring break, can we go to Astoria, Oregon, and like go hang out?" And I was looking at the weather, going like, it's nice today. What if we just went today and stayed the night? And so we took off. I checked the oil like a good dad does before you go on a road trip. Everything looked good. All right, let's rock and roll. We drive, several hundred miles, look at some cool beach stuff, have a great time. And then on the way home, pulling out of Seaside, Oregon, it starts making this noise. And we both look at each other, and I'm like, film this as I try to find a place to pull over so I can have like a reference for this later.
You're like, I need some content. This is a perfect idea.
So it's, and so I'm like, this is bad. I already know this is bad. The mechanic in me has heard this noise before. So I pull over, and as I'm pulling over, the oil light comes on. I'm like, this is very bad. But I'm like, I must have had a catastrophic oil failure somewhere while driving. And so I look in the engine, it's bone dry, not a drop of oil to be seen. I pull the dipstick, and it is just cooked. Just
Wow.
like it burned like 3 quarts of oil somehow. I don't know if it's all like stuck in the catalytic converter or something.
Did you know? When you were driving, did you see like this huge black trail of smoke behind you at any point?
No, I didn't. I didn't see anything. I even like had
That's
it.
a lot of oil to burn, man.
It's a ton of oil to burn in not that much time.
Did you
So
do like
I don't
a
know.
Dukes of Hazzard jump and like catch the bottom of your car, just rip off the entire floor pan of the car, dumping all the oil at once? That's really hard to do.
So once this happened, and once the dust kind of settled, we got a tow. It happened in actually not too bad of a place because I still had reception. If I had driven another like 10 minutes, I wouldn't have had any reception, and we would have been in a bad shape because like there's no houses over there. It's like you're going over the coast range, and it's just like we would have just been hosed. I might have been able to coast back down the mountain for a ways, but
That
the windows
sounds
were all
safe.
yeah. Well, the windows were all fogged up. Otherwise, I would have done that anyway.
Why
But,
the windows are fogged up, huh?
Well,
what
when
were you
you
doing in
don't
the car whenever you lost oil?
don't worry about it. That's for me to know. The defrost doesn't work when you have no engine running. Is the problem.
Oh,
Yeah. But turns out that this is a massive problem with Kias in particular. There is a Facebook group with 32,000 members dedicated to this very problem. There is a huge class action lawsuit that I was aware of and did get the quote unquote fix for, but it's kind of just a patch job. It's not a real fix. And
we just put some more oil in it, bub. That's all we do.
Yeah, they reflash it so it has a different knock sensor algorithm. I'm
Oh
like,
yeah,
that-
they changed the
okay.
sensor so it doesn't tell you it's happening.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Who needs this pesky oil sensor? Get rid of this thing.
We disabled
So-
your oil light.
Yeah. So it's a big deal. The good news is I just got confirmation this morning. It's being covered under warranty. So
So
That's-
Kia are famous for their 7-year warranty in this country. Is it the same
it's
out
a
there?
10-year, 100,000 in this country.
And where's your Kia on those scales?
Because I did that, because there was a big lawsuit, and because I did do those updates, it's actually been extended to a 15-year, 150,000.
That's insane.
So, yeah, except that this engine went out at 67,000 miles. Like,
Wow.
This is ridiculous. So it's a known problem. I didn't know it was a known problem when I bought the car. I bought it back in 2016. But it's become increasingly obvious. The Kia dealer that is working on it, they said, oh yeah, we've got a half a dozen cars in the shop with this issue at any given time. Right now, yours is one of 6.
Yeah, it's what is really interesting about car dealers though is they tell that to you when they're fixing your car, not when you're buying the car. Because
Well, it's a different dealer than when I bought the car. Because
when
it
I
was just
bought
the
my
closest
recent
Kia
car,
dealer.
mine had a known issue which sounds like similar in severity to yours, basically chain disintegrates, timing chain disintegrates inside the engine,
Oh, good.
causing the entire thing to be useless. And I was like, hello, Mr. Dealer. Could you tell me honestly whether you've had many? Never had one, sir. No, we've not even heard of that happening to your type of car. So I am on borrowed time.
Yeah, you understand.
I took out an extended warranty though, so that's the answer.
Good.
It's like fuzz pedals are the complete opposite of selling a problem. You know, you're selling a pedal that kind of doesn't work properly.
You're selling a problem
You're like,
is what you're doing.
Yeah,
That's what,
this circuit completely is misbiased and doesn't sound good at all. It just makes weird gating sounds and spits and spatters. Here,
So
you should buy it.
This totally barbecues your signal and makes it completely unrecognizable from what it used to be.
Exactly.
This is a really interesting segue to the cryptid, funnily enough, Bri, because there is one demo that we haven't yet released yet because it's taking a little bit extra to do, but it makes extensive use of that gated sputter sound, and it might be one of my favorite demos.
Whose is it? Can we say?
It's Jamie Humphreys, and
Ah.
basically what happened with Jamie is he's not, and he'd be the first to say, he's not the world's strongest fuzz player. And when we picked him, it was because we were like, he could do some, great Gilmore tones with it. But like 3 of the videos had some great Gilmore tones in it. And I was like, you know what, Jamie, we don't need any more Gilmore. And that hurt. To say that really hurt.
Wow.
And he was like,
quick, get that sound bite.
he was like, let me do some drop D tuning. Let me do a bit of Smashing Pumpkins riffage. Let's see what comes out. And this is why it's now one of my favorite. Like, don't get me wrong, all of the demos were incredibly high class for this release, but this demo from Jamie is different because it's him out of his comfort zone, and as a result, he's using it in different ways than anybody else, and I love it. I can't wait for you guys to check it out in podcast land. That's where they are, isn't it?
I think that's, the official town where they all reside. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Podcast land.
Yep.
Are you the mayor of podcast land, Brian?
I'd be more like the
so
janitor.
I'd like to file some formal complaints.
I'm more like the janitor.
No, he's more like the CEO of Turn Your Business into a Podcast Land. Do you have a hobby? Are you enjoying it? Allow me to turn it into a business and a podcast.
Allow me to make it work for you.
No, so the cryptid has had a great response though, Bri. Again, I don't know what magic you've done inside the box because I've only had a cursory look because it's very well built inside. But that character control dude does so many cool things.
Yeah, and I see there's a lot of people that are saying they're asking if it's a bias control because usually there's going to be a bias control on most typical fuzz pedals that kind of does that sort of. Yeah. But this, like I said, this is not a fuzz face. It's not a traditional fuzz circuit at all. So it's not really a bias. I mean, not really a bias control at all. Like not in the traditional sense, like you'd think of like in a fuzz face or something like that, or tone bitter.
Correct me if I'm wrong. My fuzz credentials. Well, I think we all know about my fuzz credentials, but a bias control is literally changing the amount of voltage that flows between 2 different transistors, isn't it?
You could do it different ways. I mean, I think the most common way with like a fuzz face is you're just limiting the voltage going to that second transistor.
Right. So it's where that voltage sits compared to the previous transistor, which is why we're kind of using the phrase bias, I guess.
Well, it's because you're literally making that transistor out of bias. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because for a transistor to work, it has to be in a certain range of like currents and voltages, depending on what circuit you're doing, for it to actually work properly, from an electronic engineer's perspective. But as guitar players, we generally like to take a perfectly good working audio circuit and misuse it. This is why tubes distort, because we're misusing it. It's not supposed to distort. Actually, it's supposed to be clean, but we're misusing it because we like the way it sounds. And fuzz is a perfect example of taking what should be a perfectly good circuit, perfectly good working circuit, and just kicking it square in the nard so it doesn't work anymore.
Square is probably accurate as well.
Square, yes.
So another thing that I've seen a lot of people talk about is like, oh, it's more of a distortion than a fuzz. And we've gone here before, you know, there is a very fine line between extreme distortion and fuzz in reality. And I think you've said in your video, you know, this isn't just transistors. We've got some JFET stages in there, one or two, I forget what you say. But what do you say to people who say, is this more of a distortion than a fuzz?
Well, I mean, so the truth is, I did a video on a DS1 on YouTube a while back where I basically took a DS1 and said, here, we can make it into a clean boost. Here, we can make it into an overdrive. Here, we can make it into a fuzz. It doesn't really matter what circuit you're using as much as what you're doing to the circuit to make it clip harder, clip more square, or more rounded like an overdrive. So it's not as black and white as it's a fuzz pedal, it's an overdrive pedal. A lot of times it's just like, well, depends. What are you doing to the circuit?
Yeah, I've heard some broken tube screamers that sound pretty fuzzy.
Exactly. And people have played on amps where something is wrong with them, and you're like, wow, this sounds like a great fuzz. Like, yeah, Fender Twins aren't supposed to sound like that, though.
And yeah, I mean, I've made a fuzz pedal that sounds like a volume remover, but that's because I had one of the transistors around the wrong way. But that's another story.
Well,
I think no. So you just made a clean pedal.
I think the first fuzz, I forget the details of it, but it was basically from a soundboard where the transistor inside got misbiased and started fuzzing. That's supposed to be a clean sound, right? So, you know, that's just what happens.
Yeah, that was on a country song.
Yeah, and they kept it like, that's cool. Again, another case of guitar players saying, wow, this circuit does not work as intended. Let's use it some more.
Yeah, that's broken.
Yeah,
it is now worth $5,000.
How do we break these over and over again and sell them?
Nice.
And there was the maestro.
That's right.
Response has been great. They've flown off the shelves quite literally. I love it. I've totally taken all other fuzzes except one of my fuzzes off my board now, and it's doing all the fuzz lifting duties for me.
I went to band practice on Sunday, and the singer Brandon follows our stuff, and he said, did you bring the new cryptid fuzz? And I said, well, Brandon, like, we're doing 90s country, not a lot of, we don't really do a lot of fuzz-based songs, but if I could sneak it in there, I would.
Hold on while I think you should plug my Dracaris in.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's always a first time. Why not try?
There's always room for fuzz, baby.
I know.
Always.
If I can sneak it in there,
that's a great motto. There's always room for fuzz, brackets, baby. I'll remember that one.
That'd be in our next ad, right?
Yeah. Stop making everything into a business. This was for my new charity, Fuzz for Heroes. No, that's had a great a great reception. So I'm pleased about that. Listen, guys, I can't get too much further into this episode, though. There are two very big subjects that we need to cover. The first is not related to anybody on this show, but I do need to cover it. Did you guys see that Ben Eller has basically joined Mastodon?
Uncle Ben.
Ben himself.
That's great, man.
I mean,
I love Ben. Ben's fantastic.
He's a very, very good. He's more than a YouTuber. I mean, he is like a character in the guitar world, I guess. But he's a great instructor as well. I think he puts his videos out in a way that really makes them. And like this one took me. Like, I know he loves Mastodon, but this took me by surprise. I think it's taken everybody, possibly including him, by surprise.
Yeah, I'm not sure how it happened. I'd actually like to talk to him about it. I've met Ben, I don't know, 4 or 5 times. He's a super nice guy.
He's a great guy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And he's a monster player too. He's he's a chameleon.
Yeah.
He can kind of play whatever, you know. He's really good. And yeah, has a deep love for Mastodon, so it's a great fit. I'm actually really curious to see what he brings to it. And I'm not sure if this is a on tour kind of just temporary
I don't
thing
think anyone does
what.
yet. His social media, according to the one article I read, and obviously I've seen like 50 articles crop up, but his social media has gone a bit quiet. So I don't know whether that's been decided. I think the chap left and then he was announced like the day after. So what is really
the
interesting...
Chap, Brent Hines.
I couldn't remember his first name, and I wanted to say Brian, and then I realised I've just got Brian on the brain, and he'll turn that into a business. So I don't want to do that.
That's a good business name, Brian on the Brain.
Brian on the brain.
That's a new podcast.
Brian on the brain.
Brian's new psychology podcast. Brian on the brain. So tell
And if
me
you look
about
over
your
here
first
on the on the side of this here frontal lobe, you'll see the yogurt gland.
We're just going to try freeze drying your temporal lobe and see what happens. Amanda, where's the surgical freeze dryer?
Yes.
What do you mean
Allow
it's
me
full
to
of
insert a
yogurt?
germanium diode in your brainstem.
If you
What
could
happens
be
if we
augmented
misbias it?
if you could be augmented by a fuzz pedal, which one would it be?
A fuzz?
Or any pedal. If you could have any pedal inside your brain. I don't know how that works. I'm guessing, like, when you play the guitar, you're able to actually recreate the sounds of that pedal without the pedal.
Which one has the most neural capabilities, I suppose? is what
Yeah, I
I'm
guess
saying.
maybe something from Maris.
Yeah,
I don't know.
an eventide H90. Job
Right.
done, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
It was a dumb question, but I'm a dumb person, so that's fine.
But anyway, congratulations to Uncle Ben.
What
Yeah,
I
man.
wanted to say about it, though, is essentially I believe he's got the gig by being on YouTube playing lots of their music really well. And I think that's really encouraging to other guitarists to be like, you know what, if you like that one weird band, I'm not saying Mastodon are a weird band, but we all have our own quirks, then put that content out there. Show yourself playing it. Don't be afraid to do it. And you never know who's going to call you up and say, you know what, we need a depth guitarist now. So...
Well, and part of being in a band is just being a cool guy to be around, a cool person to be
Yes.
around. So, and Ben's a great dude.
Is that
you
why
know,
I
so
got kicked out of my band?
that may
Yes.
that may be why.
Yeah, I think so.
I haven't.
Did it start with your playing is just fine, but
Or even worse, your playing is awesome. Really, really
right?
great.
Love your playing. However,
There seems to be some personality conflicts.
don't worry, it's not us, it's you.
hmm hmm
Oh man, there's nothing worse than breaking up with band members. We recently had to get somebody else in to play keys, and it was messy. It was messy. But I don't want to go into anything negative. I want to go into something very positive, which is the upcoming wrestling match between Bill Burr and the Portland Cube himself.
Ah! Yeah, that was really weird to see, and I guess for a reference, so I'll,
Yeah, I was gonna say,
I'll just tell it.
Maybe people don't know what we're talking about here.
Yeah, let me tell it from my perspective because it was a bit weird. So it's Saturday night. The family's all in bed. I go to bed pretty late, so I'm staying up, scrolling on the social medias, answering emails, like a bunch of stuff that I was catching up with because I was looking at lighthouses all day, which was cool. And I see this post from Bill Burr talking about, quote unquote, the saddest place on earth. It looks like it's from a new special that he filmed. And I'm going to butcher the bit. He delivers it way better than I ever could. But he claims that the saddest place on earth is Guitar Center because of all the failed musicians. And his big one was, and then there's the divorced dad walking around pointing at things on the wall and be like, oh, is that a custom color? Maybe if I bring that one home, it'll fill this void in the center of my chest. And I wasn't the first guitar-based media person to make a comment, but I thought, well, yeah, that's how I feel. If I just get that custom color, that'll that'll fix all my problems.
That's like every niche too. Everything that you like to do is that way.
Of course, yeah. And so I made a joke comment saying the void desires custom shop guitars and it must be satisfied or something to that effect. And satiated, I think, is the
Satiated,
word I
there you
used.
go.
Yeah. And I didn't think that much of it. I just thought, I'll leave a funny comment on this funny post. And then the next day, no, it was Monday. I actually didn't know this happened at all. They never contacted me or anything.
Wait, so you're
But-
saying they owe you royalties?
Yes. Yeah. I don't know how that works in magazine quote
I don't
form.
know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
But whatever it is,
they used your content.
they did use my content.
Where
without
there's a
my
blame,
permission.
there's a claim.
That's right.
ambulance chasing for musicians. What could we do
Right.
with that?
I've got a business idea.
There's no way this could possibly go wrong. No. Shout out guitar.com for writing the article.
We're joking.
Yeah.
It was awesome to see your name in the article. I'm
Yeah.
not going to lie. Like, every time I see one of my friends, I'm like, wow. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, this is going to blow up and he's going to be so, like, shy about it. But the reality is that it's fantastic.
It was cool. I'm not going to lie. I mean, as much as I love Misha and Periphery and Mark Agnesi, I got a little giddy about being quoted alongside Questlove. I was like, now that's cool. that's cool to me. But yeah, they pulled that quote amongst some of the other ones they found entertaining, which was Mark Agnesi, Misha from Periphery, and Questlove. And I don't think there was anybody else. But
I'll tell you the thing that upset me.
What?
Was Blake Wyland of Tone Mob. And I'm like, what?
What are we, chopped liver?
I mean, that's my handle. I don't know, like, that. It's not
I'm
Blake
sorry,
Wyland
of the Tone Mob podcast. I'm like, there's more that he does than just Tone Mob, though.
Yeah, I should have said of the Tone Mob podcast and String Joy, and nothing to do with Chasing Tone.
Nothing ever to do with Chasing Tone, ever. Not for 400 and whatever.
What episode are we on? Like 6,000?
40, 45 years. No, you know what, Brian? We missed this one, right? Last episode was episode 555. Think how many terrible IC-related jokes we could have made, like the terrible nerd comedians.
Right. It's like, I guess our timing was off.
Right. I guess I'm just a massive clock. I think that's what you said to me. Speaking of clock, did you guys see Walrus released a clock pedal? Now, it isn't what you
I thought
want,
they did that a while
right?
back.
I missed this.
No, this is part of the new Canvas series.
Yeah.
So, you know, they did the tuner, then they did the other one that we all thought was a bit weird. I forget what it was, some sort of buffer or patch bay type thing. And then they've done the clock, which is a clock, but not like one that tells the time, one that sends MIDI clock, which is actually a very useful thing to do, which you will find out if you watch a certain MIDI course. But it is a very singular device.
Coming soon to guitarpedalcourse.com.
Oh man, filming is hard. I'm just going to say that right now. And Brian knows why, but we'll leave it at that.
It's tough.
Yeah. All I'm going to say, I don't often compliment Brian on this podcast. In fact, my shtick is generally to try and insult him and try and make him angry, and it never works. He laughs. But, Bri, you make videoing look easy. Now, I know it helps if you've been doing it for 15 years, but it is not easy, and you have mad kung fu skills, sir. I bow down at the temple of your Shaolin abilities.
It's just doing it over and over since 2008.
It's reps. I used to be like, not terrified and like, oh, I'm gonna have a heart attack, but I really hated looking at the camera.
Oh, that was me. Yeah, I was terrified and looked like I was gonna have a heart attack.
Yeah, it's so weird at first, but once you do it, then it's like, whatever, who cares?
Yeah, Richard did send me a little clip, and he didn't use this clip, but he was showing me something else, and I'm like, you look really uncomfortable. Like, really uncomfortable.
It's just reps. It's not going to get better till you do it.
The thing is, like, once you're like at the last video of the course you do, you'd be like, this is easy. I got this. And then
and what happened is I ended up filming like 4, 5, 6 hours worth. It wouldn't have been that long. None of it is going to be used. It ended up being a dry run, and a great dry run, and really, really useful. But by the end of it, as Brian says, I was a million times better than I was by the beginning. But the trouble is I'd invested 50% of the entire time into like the first 5% and then rushed through the rest. So, Brian, you do make this look easy, which is a real skill.
It's tough. I mean, last year, what did I do? Take off 2.5 months to film my
basically,
DIY course?
When we had questions about pedals, he would just look at us and laugh. And throw yogurt at the camera like a monkey in a cage.
I would just reply
Go
back,
away, bad people.
This user not available. Send.
Send.
Oh, it'd be funny if it wasn't so true. But yeah, kind of an interesting play to stick a clock out on a like a full size pedal. Like if it was teeny weeny, I'd get it. But a full-size pedal, I've got real estate that I need to worry about, guys. Come on. Miniaturize.
So it's $300 too. It's a healthy price, I suppose. But I mean, is there anything like it out there?
Yeah.
Is
and
it?
it isn't $300 and it's miniature. So
I don't know. I don't know.
No,
But
well,
it's
have
got
a
two
look at
switches
this
though. What's the
thing.
other switch do?
Canvas clock. Sorry, I haven't looked at this, so
I
I'm like
haven't
super,
either. But
super out of this.
I could have
loop.
swore they did this a while back though. I swore they did.
I mean, it looks very similar aesthetically to the tuner.
Yeah,
so
and I
it's
dig
probably what
the
you're thinking
aesthetics,
of.
don't get me wrong. These pedals look fantastic. I've got the canvas tuner on my band board, and it's a great tuner. No doubt. Very useful.
What's this clock sound like? Does it get good tone?
It's got the absolute, like...
Most transparent?
Its
the
ticks
most
are transparent, but its tocks are a little bit noisy for me.
I see. How do you go viral on it?
Send it to Bill Burr. Going back to the Bill Burr thing, are you familiar with Warhammer, the tabletop battle game that you
I am
paint
familiar
miniatures?
with it, but that is one level of nerddom I haven't
I was
actually
going to
dipped my
say,
toe in.
if Bill Burr thinks that's the place where you see like middle-aged men, he's never been to a Warhammer shop, and I haven't for many a year. I buy it all mail order so no one can tell. But that really is like, there is nowhere nerdier than that. If you walk in, someone will say, "Halt, good sir," and hold a staff at you or something like that.
I thought that Scott's comment was funnier than mine, though. His was, how did he say it exactly? It was like, if the Comedy Center was a place, it would be like a 10 to 15 times sadder place than any music store ever, or something.
That's a good
like
point.
that. Like, oh yeah, can you imagine a bunch of failed comedians sitting around trying to sell you an SM58? Like, I don't know what they would be selling, but yeah.
Yeah.
I think a failed comedian is more sad than a failed musician, because a lot of people think they can do comedy. But like, people don't look at somebody who can play guitar typically and be like, I can totally do that. They're like, oh, that guy had to learn, you know?
Some do and some try, but I don't think as much. I think you're right. Everybody thinks that they're funny. Or, well, not everybody, but a lot of people think, I'm pretty funny, right? But not like stand-up comedian funny. You know, that's a
I know
whole
that I
different
have
level.
I have personally made thousands and thousands of people laugh on this show and various other forms of media. And one time I tried to do a roast. My friend was turning 30, and he had a big party, and we all got together. He's like, roast me. And so we all had to write a roast. And I had a hard time standing up in front of a crowd of people that I knew and was very comfortable with and trying to deliver stand-up comedy. I was awful at it. Awful. I have no business trying to be a stand-up comic. That is a hard thing
Maybe
to
you
do.
just need practice on putting people down. Have you ever tried posting at Reddit much?
I gotta say, your
Our guitar pedals.
your part in the roast of Brian Wampler was magnificent. So I think
That's not stand-up comedy, though. That's more like a sketch.
yeah,
different
no,
thing.
I hear you. I agree with you, by the way. I've thought about stand-up comedy as a career, not for me, but just in general, and thought the percentage of people that can do it, it's got to be one of the lowest percentages out there, which is why there are so many unfunny comedians, because it's really, really hard to stand there and watch and perform for 90 minutes and make people laugh. Unless it's me playing the guitar, that tends to make people laugh for 90 minutes.
Well, if you think about people like Norm Macdonald, hilarious, in my opinion. I think that dude was one of the funniest of all times. But if you repeat his jokes, they're not funny.
It's the delivery that's funny.
It's how he says it that makes it
It's
funny.
the way he tells them. That's a
Yep.
Frank Carson phrase for all our
nice.
English listeners and Irish
Yeah.
listeners, particularly.
It's 100% that. It's the delivery, it's the timing, it's everything. That it's a real skill.
I'm so
Unlike
tempted
guitar.
Yeah, unlike guitar, anybody could do that.
I'm so tempted to make a number of really bad comedian jokes, but I'm not a comedian, so I won't. Anyway, Walrus Clock, yes. Bill Burr, no. I think that's where we've concluded.
Let's not forget. Bill's talking about how sad Guitar Center is. Bill's a drummer.
He's a musician.
Yeah, what's he know about it? He's a bald drummer.
Whoa. I mean...
Yeah.
What's
Look.
wrong with being bald?
Or a drummer.
It's just You know, you guys both know what I'm talking about, and don't pretend you don't.
Yeah, well, yeah. Right.
All right, I'm teasing. Bill Burr's pretty funny.
Kind of hurts my feelings.
You don't have any.
I'm not sure on Bill Burr. I think did he do like a cartoon once where he voiced one of the dads in it or something? Or have I got another Bill mixed up?
I have no idea. I know I don't follow Bill Burr super close, but I've seen
his comedy.
I've seen plenty of clips that I thought were funny, but he's kind of one of those mean comics. That's kind of his thing.
I don't know any really funny comics at the moment. In fact, me and Anna have decided to stop going to watch live comedy because nobody's making us laugh anymore.
Oh, well, that's because you're going to British comedy. Oh, did I say that out loud?
I think
am I supposed to keep
British
those thoughts
comedy
to my...
is the finest comedy in the world.
I love British comedy. I'm just giving you
garbage. Don't get me started. Brian, one thing we should probably talk about though, when jumping around, like
freeze-dried peanut butter. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad you added nut butter there because that was going to get worse, and actually, it just did. No, what we should talk about is it says on the cryptid fuzz 9 to 18 volts.
Yes.
Currently.
Yes.
Because technically you can run 9+ volts through that pedal.
Well, I mean, so that's the whole thing, because the common question we would get is, can I run 18 volts through it? I'm like, well, you can. It's not going to hurt it. It's just going to sound like dog poop, and not like cute dog poop, like nasty.
Oh,
stinky,
my dog.
Cute. Like cute.
Hold on. My
puppy.
puppy's dog poops are ridiculously small. Like it's a waste of a dog poop bag. It literally is. They're tiny, but that's
fascinating. This concludes the poop section of the podcast.
I am so glad that you told me that.
I reckon you could freeze dry them, Bri, and then I think we could sell them.
I don't. No.
Seriously
For what
though.
purpose?
So yeah, about the 18 volt thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, so the pedal, you're not going to hurt it. Where some of the pedals, you actually can do damage to it. Some pedals, if you
like
put 18
anything
volts
with a charge pump in it,
if you don't put some other protection circuitry in it. And,
yeah.
And like we didn't do that with the Tumnus because the way that power works is such a big part of that sound. Like you can actually make that charge pump section actually work a lot better. But it kind of changes the sound a bit. And if you're going for a vintage Klon sort of thing, you got to have all its flaws in there with it too. And so unfortunately you can't run it at 18 volts. But with that said, like with the fuzz, you can run at 18 volts. You're probably just not going to like it because everything gets misbiased and not in a good way. So it's not going to sound great at 18 volts, I don't think. Blake, actually, you might like it. I take that back. You might actually like it, Blake. You probably
drop Q. It sounds magnificent.
Right. If you're playing you're playing a baritone through it and boosting into it, it's going to sound gnarly. But
now we're talking. Yeah, that's what I like. Uh-huh.
If you're looking for that smooth, nice, pretty, beautiful, smooth fuzz, the Eric Johnson violin singing thing.
No.
It ain't going to do it at 18 volts. Not going to do it.
Not going to do it, huh? Okay.
So anyways, so that's why, yeah, you can use it at 18 volts. I would never do that. I mean, it's not a thing I like, but you do.
I shall do me, Bri.
I'm running at 18 volts. Let's see what happens.
I'm running at 70.
Blake would be like, what happens if we put 36 volts into it?
How many volts can I put?
So
can I just plug this straight into a 120?
A buddy of mine
for a minute, for a short time, you can.
Just bought that Dario wireless power supply thing. Have you seen it?
Wireless?
Well, sadly, it isn't what I thought when he said that. I was like, wait, some kind of magnetic induction to send power to the pedals? But it's not. It's got like the one cable that goes between them all, and you charge it with USB, which is why it's
so it's a battery pack.
It's basically a giant battery pack with a fancy connector.
DC Pedalboard did that a while back, years ago.
Right.
That was built into the pedal board, though, right?
I think he did a couple of different types. He made a power supply, and he also made one that was built into the pedal board.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Did you know John? He's a good dude, man. Good dude.
I met him a couple times at the NAMage events and stuff.
Yeah, he's a great guy, man.
Mm-hmm.
So again,
Mission's got a battery. There's a few battery ones out now.
Right, and like again, there is. I think JHS make like a specific battery-starving simulation pedal for fuzzes? I think they do something like that. But a lot of people love the starved fuzz sound, right? I wonder whether this power pack will give you any of that, or whether it'll be a kind of more linear drop-off.
I don't know what a hungry police officer has to do with anything, but okay.
A hungry police officer. That's a children's book, isn't it?
Starved fuzz. I was making it.
Oh,
so yeah.
That was a terrible joke. I can see why you bombed that. I can see. I understand.
Back to your career as a stand-up comedian.
Yes, right.
Have you considered selling oil? Because not only do you need some, but you're probably pretty good at selling it. I'm not convinced, but I do need a new power supply. Do we have any hookups in the power supply world, Bri? I need like 3 more power
Freeman
supplies.
has a good power supply.
They're super high end though, aren't they? They are really nice.
I don't ever pay for them. I don't know. I'm just like, Dave, can you see me go power supplies?
Doesn't work like that with me. If I ring up and say, "Can I have this piece of kit, please?" They go, "Sure." Knock it off your next bill. That's not what I'm looking for.
You're asking the wrong people.
Okay.
You need to ask
All
Dave, man.
Okay, yeah, all right.
Be like, Dave, I will trade you 1 day's worth of, I don't know, website updates for power supply.
I will trade you a large Toblerone.
That's what Dave's saying. He's like, what are you going to do for me? What's in it for me?
I do know that Mr. Friedman is a fan of the single malt Scotch whiskey. And
there you
that
go.
is something that I have a very large supply of, because every Christmas people run out of things to think of to buy me. So I get bottles of single malt because I like a single malt. And I've got like 10 bottles. I've got more single malt whiskey here than I've got wine. I think I've got a problem.
Well, it's only a problem if you drink it.
Yeah, I think they call that alcoholism.
Oh. Can you freeze dry alcohol? What happens if you freeze dry alcohol, Brian?
That's writing that down right now.
That sounds like a new business.
Freeze dry craft beer. Yes.
You see Brian munching on a craft beer slice.
What you doing? Chewy. Just eating a biscuit. Don't you worry about it.
It's a special cracker.
These are my happy
Martinsville cracker.
Yeah.
That's I probably wouldn't go with that. That's probably not good.
That's not the branding.
Probably not that brandy. It's probably bad.
Okay. But you couldn't call it the Martinsville biscuit because people would think it was some kind of scone. They'd think it was like a big air.
Yeah, I mean, they'd be like, "Where's my gravy at, man? There's any biscuits and gravy."
What about a crisp?
The Martinsville crisp.
That might work.
Mm-hmm. I like it.
Yeah,
sounds like a position that 2 adults who love each other very much might get into. Tonight, darling, we're going to try the Martinsville crisp.
If you would describe any of those as crispy, I think you're in trouble. Anyway.
Don't you judge me.
You might be on the wrong end.
This has
moving
taken
along
a
swiftly.
very dark turn. I don't know what to do now.
What else do we have in the top?
I am going to make a comment. Earthquaker Devices collaborates with LCD Sound System to reproduce its famous bass fuzz sounds, resulting in the Chelsea low-end fuzz driver.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as an Arsenal fan, I'm never buying a Chelsea-branded anything, as they are a terrible London football club that no one should support.
I support them then.
No.
Yeah. I don't even know what that means, but
me either.
But it seems to irritate Richard, so I'm going to do it.
That's you know what? That's probably a good strategy in life.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about this fuzz. What do we got here?
Yeah.
What do we got? Jamie Stillman has a real knack for finding interesting artist collaborations.
Why are you reading it like it's a film trailer?
In a world
first, there was fuzz.
Where Jamie Stillman makes cool stuff all the time. Well, I'm trying to say, is it based on? Excuse me. What is this bass fuzz sound though? I'm not familiar. I'm not super familiar with LCD sound systems. I know who they are, but I can't say I could just pick their tunes out of a bucket. Richard, help us out here.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, good.
And twice on
moving
Tuesday.
on swiftly.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to figure out.
I'm not a
this is
big
based
fan
on...
of LCD sound system. The only reason this caught my eye is it's named after one of my rival football teams. It would be like calling this, I don't know who Brian's rival football team would be.
I don't watch football, so.
Okay, so it would have to be a rival. A rival? No, we're not going to go there. We're not going to go there.
Yeah, but apparently my hobbies tend to revolve around turning fun things into businesses.
Oh,
I noticed a
sounds so
fancy
fun.
vacuum cleaner in the corner there. I'm almost tempted to say that you've got a Dyson there, Brian, but I
No.
don't think that is.
That's a eureka.
A what?
A eureka.
Why do you have to say the last bit like that?
I think it has an exclamation point on the end. Yeah, it does have an
Oh.
exclamation point. So you have to say eureka.
Okay, if that's how you read an exclamation mark, then a lot of the slightly more terse emails I've sent you will have come across much jollier than I intended them to. I was serious, Bri. Yeah, okay. How's the new studio working out? Good?
Oh, I was just gonna tell you guys real quick before we move on from that. They aren't real specific about what this is based on. It says, it was based on a quote one of a kind vintage pedal. So I'm not sure what this is exactly.
Yes.
Maybe it's something unique, but color me curious. I'd love to try it. Anyway, now we can move on.
If you were color curious, what color would you be? All right, then let's talk about our executive producers.
Just saying.
That sounds good. All right. I can talk about them. You want me to talk about them?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
All right. Let's give a shout out to our executive producers who go to Patreon and make this show possible. And guess what? They also make the bonus content that Richard and I are going to go record possible. And those people would be Bill Bays, David Tyndall, Dave Trombetti, Shannon Weaver, Eric Wilson, Vidar Frostad, Michael Freer, Sean Arbo of Gun Street Wiring, Rick Calhoun of Honey Picks, Patrice Fournaise, Dylan Talks Tone, Missouri Electrical Box Company, Kevin Harrington, Barry from Grez Guitars, Tom Kelly, Jake Young of Man the Helm Podcasts, Pigsy, John O'Neill, Robert Carr, Hunter Hudson, Rob Stokes, Nick Spano, Sasha Sir, Jay Stratton, Seth Williford, Harry Post, Grumpy Mike, Harvey Pedals, Allison Carroll, Bum Laser, Anthony Stevens, Chris Brown, Philip Carter of the 40 Watt Podcast, Christopher Logan, Jason Englehart, Da Crowhawk, Dylan Lewis, Josh, James Thompson, Colin Littlejohn, Machete of Odin, Derek Lyons, Darth Bagel, Wizard of Woz, Crappy Tom. Blake is a secret comedian? Who is this? Why does this keep changing? I don't. You threw off my groove. DJ Farns, Kyle Viana, Dan Ridgway, Robert Hahn, John Hill, Nick Call, Kyle Ray, and your face.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.